Before this video starts, guys, I want to let you guys know that I did go back to the original aluminum chassis from Team Durango. The carbon fiber one from Exotech is nice, but it's not going to cut it for what I really need. How's it going, guys? It's Brian here, or XtremeRC from Team Durango. In this part 3 of the DEX210v2 build series, we are going to be building our CVDs. So, let's get this started. We have bag C1 here. Let's go ahead and get this opened up and get started. Okay, so this is the bag we're really going to want to worry about. This bag has your bearings, your CVDs, your pins, and your shims. All the important stuff for building your CVDs, basically everything you need for building your CVDs. These other parts have your wheel hexes, shock components, and stuff like that. And then I also took out some of the toe adjustments and this other part tree. I took out my washers, and these are the rear hubs that we will be using. It also asks you to pull out the gear grease that's provided with your Team Durango kit. Your gear grease should look something like this. It will say gear grease on the front, and it will have number TD390005. It will be your green grease. See right there. Now the first step we are going to be doing is just let me open up this bag and get it started. Once you have everything out of this bag, you're going to want to be very careful not to lose anything. What I'm going to be doing here is just putting all my same pieces together. So my shims, my CVD pieces, my bearings, my pins, and my ball studs, and my little couplings here. So just so I know I have everything together. Now what we're going to be starting off with is we are going to be grabbing our right hub. So this is what your right hub should look like. You'll be able to tell by looking at your manual which one is your right and left hub. I'm also going to be getting out the hexes, or your wheel hexes. Your wheel hexes are off part tree 330312, and they are going to be number 2 on your part tree. So they should look like this. Not sure if you guys will be able to see that in focus, but if you look at your manual, you should be able to tell. If you have all what you need out for building your CVDs, you're going to have your bearings, your pins, your toe inserts, your gear grease, your hex, your 4 shims, your 2 ball studs, and your CVDs, of course, and your couplings. And it's going to be the same for the other side as well. So we're going to have 2 of these, 2 of your hexes, and 2 of your toe inserts. And that's basically it, guys. Let us get started on the build. Put everything else off to the side that we're not going to be using to build the right hub. Everything is the same for the right and left hub except the hub itself. The first step of the manual calls you to take out your green gear grease, and you're actually going to be putting it on what I'd like to call a cup link, even though that's not even what they're really called. It's hard for me to really show you, but it's a little cylinder that holds your pin inside your actual CVD, so that's how it actually captures your CVD and doesn't let it fall out of your hub. This is basically the main component to that whole feature. Now, what you're going to want to be doing first is get your little piece here that I just showed you, and you want to be covered in green gear grease. So what I like to do is get a normal toothpick, and once I have it, I'll use it to actually put down onto the piece that we are putting inside of the link, or the dog bone. This actually sits inside your dog bone here through that hole, and in this little piece it has little holes in it that will hold your link to keep the CVD captured. That's basically how it works. So what the green gear grease does is it basically acts almost as like a glue. It doesn't dry up and get super hard. You can still take it out, but it kind of keeps everything steady, and it's kind of hard to explain, but it does. You do want it on this piece so it will hold your pins in, and it won't let your pins slip out, basically. So I just slide the toothpick through the middle and kind of stuff it through. If it gets dirty like this, you can get a rag and wipe it off a little bit. Or if you have a regular, what I have right here, just wipe it off on the surface that you're working on. Get a little bit more in there. Use my finger this time. Once you have your piece here greased up, you're going to want to stick it right in the middle of this dog bone. So once you get it in, it should slide right through that hole there on the top, and it should stick there nice and tight. It should be nice and flush on each side. So if you have a little bit of excess grease, you can kind of rub that off a little bit. It's not going to hurt anything, guys, so don't worry about that. Once you have the little piece on or inside of your dog bone, you're going to want to grab this piece, so your spindle, and you're going to want to put it over the top. And once it's over it, you're going to want to grab your smallest pin that is supplied in this bag, and it's going to go through one of these holes on this spindle here, and it'll go right through and through the piece that is inside of the spindle and be captured in that piece we just greased up that's inside the dog bone. And then you should be able to dangle your piece just like that. You can see how the pin is working to hold it in. So that's basically how your captured CVD works. So once you are done with that, you're going to want to grab your big bearing here, your big blue one, and insert it in the back side of your hub. So this is going to be your back side here. So the side that's facing inside towards your where your gearbox would be. Just place it in on top and push down hard. Once you hear it kind of click in and it's nice and flush, you know you are good. And basically all you do now is take your dog bone, push it through. So this is what it should look like here. You have your pin holding in your CVD inside right here, your bearing. And the next thing we are going to be doing is inserting the toe link, getting our front bearing on, our wheel hex, and our ball stud. Now we are going to be putting in our toe insert here. It is going to be your part number 330340-8. So what it calls for is to be putting in the side that has -0 labeled on it inside first. So that is the side you're going to want to be putting in first on the toe adjustment. That is what it says in the factory, or from the factory manual. And then the next thing we're going to be doing, guys, is getting our ball stud on. It is calling for a 2.5mm hex driver when putting on this ball stud here. And you are also going to be using one of your plastic washers. It is going to be the famous plastic washer we've been using basically this whole series, and it's going to be your washer number 1 on part 330363. You have your plastic washer out. You're going to want to go ahead and just slip it over your ball stud. Once you have it sitting on your ball stud, you're going to want to just screw into your second innermost hole. So it's actually going to be this hole right here, 1, 2. So your second one, 1, 2. Hopefully you can see this focusing. 1, 2, 1, 2. I think you guys know what I mean. Look at your manual and you should know. So all you gotta do is get your 2.5mm hex driver. Excuse me guys, I did say 2.5mm hex driver. It does actually not work for a 2.5mm hex driver. It is actually a 2.0. I'm guessing that is a factory mistake. It's no big deal. 2.0 is the most common hex driver that is around. That's what the most common for all RC kits, really. So you gotta let Durango know on that one that there's a little bit of a manufacturing issue with the manual. Maybe it is standard size or some other thing, but I know these are metric hex drivers, and it fits a 2.0 and not a 2.5mm. So all you're going to be doing, guys, is getting your ball stud and just screwing it right through, just like this. There's no nut that needs to be put on the other side on this one, just the washer right over the ball stud, and you just screw your ball stud right through the hub piece, or your rear hub. Let me get you guys in on a closer shot and show you guys what it looks like as of now. So you guys can see that we do have the ball stud in there, and we also have the toe insert here on the bottom. It slips right through here. That is what we have so far. Now we're going to be moving on, slipping our other bearing through here and getting our wheel hex on, and we should be just about done. Once your ball stud's on there, your CVD's in, your blue bearing, well, your bigger bearing, your toe insert's in, we're now going to be moving on to this side of the hub, which we are going to be having to, we are going to be needing these two metal shims here, our hex pin, our hex, and the bearing. This first thing we're going to be putting on is actually these two metal shims. You're going to slip them right over your axle here. So once you guys do that, they should be actually sliding over pretty easy. Just let them drop down to the bottom or the inside your hub here. Once they're in there, you get your bearing, slip it inside, make sure you have it nice and flush. Now you can see, if you guys spin this piece here, the threaded piece, you'll see that this CVD or dog bone does spin with it. You can see how the captured CVD works. That is really cool. Now the next part is we're going to be slipping on the hex. It goes on just like this. Match it up with the hole on the, sorry about that, match it up with the hole on your spindle or axle. Slide your pin right through. The rear hub is done. It should be looking like this. You got your pin in there, your wheel hex. We have the two shims inside behind the bearing up front. We have our bigger bearing in the back. See if I can get to focus. Yeah, our bigger bearing in the back. Our CVD captured, as you can tell. Very, very cool. You'll see me spin it. Bearing's working very nice. Got our ball stud there. And our toe insert. So that's how you build your Team Durango hub. Follow the instructions I showed you for this one on your left hub. You have your hub completed, as you can see here. We are now going to be putting these on the actual rear A-arms. So these rear A-arms actually come out of bag C2. So once you guys have C2 open, you will actually have 2 of these pins, 4 of these little screws here, 2 of these droop screws, and these 4 washers you're going to need to take off your part tree that we've been taking these off of for the whole series so far. First step when putting the hub onto your A-arms is actually making sure that you have everything correctly lined up, because you do not want to be putting this on and be doing it wrong. So make sure you guys look at your manual when you're doing this, because it is a hassle. You have these 4 washers, and each washer, or 2 of these washers, are going to be sitting on one side of the A-arm, and the other 2 are going to be sitting on the other side, and your hub is going to be sitting in between. So what you do is, you get your pin, put it through your main hole here, put your washers on your pin just like that so they sit there, get your hub, pull it in nice and slowly, line it up with the pin and the washers. Once you have it lined up, you can sit there and have it nice and steady so it's not going to be going anywhere. Get your 2 other washers, lick your fingers a little bit, get them to stick together, and then what I do is I grab these 2 and then I slide them through this gap here. Once you have them through this gap here, you should be able to push your pin through. Make sure they're evened up equally, or make sure they're together equally so you can push your pin through the hole with ease. It may take a couple tries, but once you get it down, you should be able to do it. Just able to get my 2 washers through the A-arm in this gap right here. They're a little bit uneven, so I'm going to use my hex driver to even them out a little bit, because you want the holes to be equal, or yeah, equal, so the pin can go right through and come out the other side. Sorry if it's not focusing here. I'll focus in a second. So now I have them equal. I can just push my pin right through, and there you go, voila. The next step we are going to be doing is getting our two little screws here that will be going on each side, or screwing in on each side of the pin to keep the pin in place. I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a close-up of where you're going to be screwing in those two little screws. So just like last time on the front A-arms, they're going to screw on each side of the pin and keep your pin in place. Once you have each screw in next to your pin here, one there and then one here, you're going to take this screw that comes out of bag C2. This is your droop adjustment screw, and where it is going to go is opposite of your pivot ball. So there's your pivot ball there. It's going to be screwing in this hole right here. As we're going to be taking the screw, and it is a 1.5mm hex screw. So get your 1.5mm driver, and all you do is go in from the bottom, screw right in from the bottom, screw all the way in. Make sure you pay attention to your manual. It will tell you how far you should screw it into. Guys, so I think this is a good time to wrap up part 3 of the DEX210v2 build series. We were able to get our rear hub carriers all put together and mounted onto our arms. So I say that is really good progress. Next thing we are going to be doing is actually getting our A-arms onto our chassis.